Greetings and welcome to another Patch Notes video here at Words About Games, and today I want to talk about some upcoming indie games. We're standing on the precipice of the busiest period of time for gamers and games critics alike. On October 2nd, there's 3 big game releases, closely followed by 2 more 3 days later. You'll probably have heard of the games that are releasing on those days. They include the likes of Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Forza Horizon 4. That's pretty much how every year goes. From October right through to the middle of December is a frenzied free-for-all of huge game releases as the industry desperately continues to grasp onto the idea that people only buy games in the last few months of the year. While there's certainly a video to be made countering this argument, the growing popularity of games launching from January to March alone speaks volumes about the wisdom of launching games away from the busiest period of the year. That's not what this video is about. While games like Red Dead Redemption 2 or Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, for example, are on just about everyone's radar this fall and holiday season, there are plenty of indie and smaller games launching in the next couple of months that are in danger of getting lost in the shuffle. So that's what I'm here to talk about today, if you'll indulge me. I've pulled 5 smaller games from my self-organised spreadsheet of upcoming game releases that I wanted to highlight and try to remind people that they're actually coming out. So here's a list of 5 indie games to watch out for later this year. Number 1. The Occupation. So first up we've got The Occupation, a first-person thriller set inside a single expansive government building that takes place in real time over the course of 4 hours. You're a reporter in 1980s England who's investigating an explosion that has triggered a rushed and controversial act which threatens to erode civil liberties. You'll need to explore, attend meetings, gather evidence, and question people to try and piece together what happened on the night of the explosion and potentially stop this act from happening. I played a demo of The Occupation at EGX last year, and I was also lucky enough to be able to chat with some of the developers, and the game has been on my radar ever since. It's such a cool concept for a game, and it seems to have been executed quite well, at least from my experience with the demo and keeping tabs on the game's development in the intervening year. Rather than the player triggering all of the key events of the game by simply being present, the story and all of the key events take place whether the player is present or not. It's up to the player to uncover the complex narrative through exploration, figuring out who has information you need or where that information is stored, and working around the routines of the characters to put everything together and complete your objectives, with many multiple ways of approaching objectives that suit multiple different styles of play. Number 2. Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu is a first-person Lovecraftian horror RPG in which players take the role of Pierce, a private investigator sent to look into the tragic death of the Hawkins family. You have to explore the terrifying Darkwater Island and navigate scary locations and question creepy characters as you try to piece together what happened to the Hawkins family and try to survive with your sanity mostly intact. Call of Cthulhu has been on my radar ever since it was first announced, as I've eagerly consumed every trailer and bit of news surrounding the game. Aside from just being a big fan of horror games in general, there's a lot that makes this game stand out as one to watch. Chiefly, the sanity system and the way it affects, informs, and interacts with gameplay. Many horror games have used a sanity system to mess with players or provide scares, but Call of Cthulhu takes things one step further. Taking hits to your sanity will amp up the spook factor for sure, as you'll start seeing and hearing things you otherwise wouldn't. But in this game, it's also used as a gameplay mechanic that can actually aid your progress, as things that would have otherwise been hidden can be found if your sanity is low, in the form of clues you might have otherwise missed or conversations you otherwise wouldn't have been able to have. The RPG mechanics are also a very interesting addition to what could otherwise have been a fairly straightforward horror game, albeit one that looks set to terrify me just in time for Halloween. Number 3. Phantom Halls. Phantom Halls is a 2D action-adventure horror game that sees you picking a character from one of a roster of standard horror character tropes, exploring a mansion filled with all sorts of horror monsters and traps, and scavenging vital supplies such as torches and weapons, while also looking for other characters scattered throughout the mansion who can join you in your adventure. Speaking of Halloween, Phantom Halls is exiting early access just in time for the big day. This is another game I had the chance to play at EGX last year, and was complimented by the developer for one of the best performances of the weekend. Thank you very much. It's purposefully very cheesy and loaded with horror movie tropes and cliches in the best traditions of the 80s horror movies that it's paying a loving homage to. It's an interesting game that I've been excited to try out since my first taste last September. You pick a horror movie trope of a character and set about trying to survive a mansion that is threatening to kill you at every turn, trying to complete objectives as you go. You can find some other characters from the roster as you explore who'll join your party for added survivability and damage with an interesting and intuitive control scheme that lets you control all of them simultaneously. Or you can play with friends, because what would cheesy 80s horror be if it could be experienced with friends? Number 4, Mutant Zero Road to Eden. Mutant Zero is a tactical adventure game that combines the turn-based tactical gameplay of XCOM Enemy Unknown with exploration and stealth. Players will take control of a team of mutants on a post-human Earth, including a duck with an attitude problem and a boar with anger issues, all looking to survive and make their way through this post-apocalyptic world and maybe find the legendary ancient haven of Eden. Usually I'm trying to be very reserved and hard to please as a game critic. However, even I have my weaknesses, and if you tell me that a game has a set of core gameplay mechanics similar to those found in 2012's XCOM Enemy Unknown, then I'm going to be very interested in that game. Mutant Zero takes the core tactical gameplay style of 2012's XCOM reboot and reimagines it as a tactical RPG with heavy focus on stealth mechanics. Everything I've seen surrounding this game makes me eager to get my hands on it though, not just the XCOM-like gameplay. The post-human world populated by mutated animals, including the delightfully entertaining crossbow-wielding duck called Ducks, looks like an interesting place to inhabit and explore. Also of note are the highly dynamic gear and upgrade systems that seem to suggest there'll be a deep customization options available to really tailor your characters to fit your own personal playstyle. Number 5, Insurgency Sandstorm. Lastly, we've also got Insurgency Sandstorm, follow-up to the hit indie shooter Insurgency, which is a team-based tactical first-person shooter focused on close-quarters combat and completing objectives in team-based PvP and PvE combat. Despite not being all that good at most of them, I'm still a sucker for a well-made online first-person shooter. Insurgency Sandstorm focuses on all of the right things as far as my tastes are concerned, however, to make it a game I'm actually quite eager to try out. For starters, there's a big emphasis on both teamwork and objective-based combat, rather than being a simple team deathmatch mode where everybody simply runs around alone trying to get all the kills. The biggest one for me, however, is Insurgency's focus on atmosphere. A lot of work has gone into the game's ambient audio and audio design to make the game feel like you've been thrown right into the middle of massive pitched battles rather than simply running and gunning your way around a standard first-person shooter map. Plus, there's an 8-player PvE co-op mode for people like me who will undoubtedly and inevitably suck at the 32-player PvP portion of the game. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. If you've enjoyed it, please keep it here at Words About Games. We've got tons of content, including our weekly podcast, more impressions videos, patch notes, and our weekly indie game of the week. We also stream over on Twitch at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. And most importantly, have a great day.